All right. Good afternoon. Today on the PIO podcast, we have Officer Ryan Railsback. He is the PIO for Riverside PD in Riverside, California. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity.
Yeah, Ryan, like I said when before we started the show, I watched a lot of PIOs in my career, and I pay attention. I write names down. I'm like, oh, I got to find a way to get them on the podcast since I've been doing this. Your name's been there, so it just I have a list of people I was going down the line, and you finally got to that spot. So I'm happy to have you on. How long have you been with Riverside PD as the PIO?
Actually, today is actually my 25th year at the police department as a sworn officer. I graduated the academy and sworn in 25 years ago today, and I actually started here as a police cadet in '96. Before that, and I come from a family in law enforcement. My father was a motor cop here at RPD for 32 years before he retired. I had an uncle and some other family members that were also here for quite a long time. I came up into our Community Services Bureau, which is where our PIO and now our kind of social media or media unit is, back in 2013. So about 9.5 years ago. We're all kind of, at the time, I think one of the first classes I went to was PIO class, but just to kind of, so everybody knew what everybody does up there. And this was at a time where our department wasn't using social media anywhere near what we are today. And it wasn't even controlled out of our unit, surprisingly. So I want to say probably around 2014, 2015, I started taking over our social media duties, which, as you know, once you post something about any crime and arrest on social media, well, then you're going to get the calls. So it kind of turned into the lieutenant of my bureau was always the lead PIO, and amongst many other duties. And hey, Ryan, you posted this the other day. This reporter has some questions. Can you call him? So it kind of turned into that. So I would say I've probably been doing PIO stuff for about the last 8 years, at least. And then I kind of have two full-time positions, really, or duties. It's being the PIO and then also being one of our community service officers, where I run our juvenile intervention and diversion program, amongst a couple other things. So it's been quite a while, it seems like.
I bet. So talking about your background, you work with kids in schools and juvenile stuff. Do you think that helped prepare you to become a PIO?
Yes and no. They are completely two different worlds in law enforcement, and I mean really completely different. A lot of people at the department know me as the PIO. They don't know that I also run our juvenile intervention program, and that's actually 12-week sessions a year on Saturday. So for basically half a year, I'm working every Saturday. I just adjust my hours and do it, and it's kind of, amongst the professional world, the PIO, nobody really knows that I've been doing that for that long.
Wow.
And then, because they don't see that, they only see my emails or news, things about the news or social media, that goes out to the public, and that's where they see that. But what's nice about working with kids, and these are your at-risk kids. These are the kids we don't want to get in trouble. Some have already gotten in trouble. We're trying to bear them on the right path again. But I think it keeps me grounded. It keeps me, especially when it comes to the social media side, it keeps me in tune with a younger audience, to know how these platforms work, to know, to keep our department engaged with the youth. Being a PIO is not just about getting up in front of a camera with a reporter and talking about something bad, although that is something that you see all the time, but it's also engaging the community through social media and making videos, other means. And so kind of engaging with the kids. Our department, one of our missions is to really engage with our youth. And so it's nice to have that, kind of common ground that these kids are, living through the social media age, to talk with and find out some new ideas about what's going on. And just, I mean, sometimes it's just goofing off on social media and having a little fun in the community. So I think that does, put this old guy, 47 years old, it helps me act like a kid at times and really kind of engage our audience, I think, in a better way.
Okay, so let's talk about the city of Riverside and Riverside Police Department. What's the population of the city, and how many sworn and civilian do you have?
Well, I think our population is up to about 325, 350,000 people. We have right now about 360 sworn officers. That's from the brand new officer out of training or even in training to the chief. And we have probably about, I think, 520 employees total. So we have a civilian support staff as well. We're like every other agency in California, but I think nationwide we're hiring. We're probably down 60 to 70 just officer positions that we want to fill over the next few years. Yeah, we're a large department. Our city is the county seat here in Riverside County. So other than the Riverside County Sheriff's Department, we're the largest police department in our county and basically our region as well.
All right, so let's talk about that geographically. Can you describe where Riverside is situated in California?
Well, we are south of Los Angeles area. We're kind of stuck in between, if you're familiar with Los Angeles and Palm Springs, okay. More inland. And we're north of San Diego. So, and I use those 3 points because your media markets are Los Angeles, Palm Springs, and San Diego in this area. So we are under the Los Angeles media market on most of our activities. That's who we deal with. But we're kind of centered, probably dead center between those 3 areas.
Okay, that helps explain locations in case anybody that's listening is not familiar. So Ryan, what kind of training have you had and that you found most valuable since you became a PIO?
Well, I think anything to do with social media. I've gone to schools, law enforcement classes or conferences. I've even taught at a couple or spoke at a couple. But the ones that I really like are these, I especially through COVID, there's some good things digitally that came out of COVID that I like. I love the virtual meeting. I just love it because as a PIO, you're stretched pretty thin, and sometimes handling a meeting, virtually while you're driving somewhere, it is, that gets some stuff off your plate. And you can do stuff at home. You can do it kind of wherever you're at. I like that. And so I like attending these little lunchtime webinars that some groups are putting out, and it's not just about government social media or anything to do with law enforcement. It's about, just social media in general when you're a business or a corporation, because I think one of the ways I've kind of been successful in this is because I look at it from a marketing standpoint. I don't have any formal schooling or anything on this, but we work closely with our marketing team at the city. So when you look at some of the stuff that you're putting out as marketing, as a sales pitch, in a way, I want to sell this arrest that we made. I want to sell that to our public. It helps you get a better understanding on how to write it, what type of images to use. How to take those images. And so I really like sitting down every so often and getting on these, like I said, just a short webinar that I can that's learning about social media. And then also on the other side of that, I really enjoy the crisis communications side, which is another piece of social media, but also in the law enforcement world or the public safety world, you have that. So I try to jump on as many of those as I have time for. Just to help, build my confidence level, build my knowledge of this whole world that we live in when you're dealing with public information.
Okay, yeah, I should have asked this question before. So you're the primary PIO for Riverside PD. Is there anybody else in the unit, or are you it?
So we have within our community services bureau, we have a media unit. So I'm the lead PIO. I have a secondary one who kind of handles more of the Spanish speaking PIO duties. Our city is actually probably about, I think they between 55 and 60% Spanish speaking. So we've been increasing our distribution of public information, in the Spanish speaking community as well. And then we also have some civilian support that will help out with the social media. And, as I build up their knowledge and kind of expertise, but also their self-confidence, we like to put other people in front of the camera. Usually it's probably myself. If not, it'll be my partner, a sworn officer, for all the bad stuff, let's say. But we have a lot of good stuff that we do. A lot of good stories that the news wants to come with us at. And I like to put other people in front of the camera. And so I've got some detectives, some motor cops, people that work in traffic, that over time I put them in front of the camera, give them a little informal training that they become pretty good at it as well. So, but yeah, so basically it's me, another officer, and then two civilian support staff that we have.
Okay, so that's a pretty decent sized group of people to work with, and then obviously you've got your subject matter experts within the department that you put out there and speak. So that's really good. All right, so social media has been front and center now, and like you said, you came into the unit without really having much social media because it wasn't around back then. You guys are using social media a lot. That was one of the ways I got you caught my attention was how you use social media. So, what platforms are you guys using right now?
Well, we're on Facebook, which is probably it's our primary one. Instagram. We also have Nextdoor, Twitter, YouTube, and we also have the Neighbors, the Ring Network, or the
Mhm.
Neighbors Public Safety Network through Ring. And then we also have a mobile app. We're part of the Atlas One family, which is nationwide, but people can download an app and have direct access to anything they need, any contact numbers, whatever the case is. That you can even make an online report through our app. So those are our primary platforms. But I'd say the ones that we probably use the most are Facebook and Instagram for the most part for kind of day-to-day stuff. When we put out alerts, missing persons, traffic alerts, we're generally doing them on all of them, maybe except YouTube, but we're doing on all of them that we'll put out some type of alert.
Okay. So, what what do you find the most challenging about being the department's PIO?
Well, the main thing is getting the information. As the news, they work. You'd be surprised on how many times I found out about critical incidents through the news. A
Mhm.
reporter calling me, and over the years, I was able to um, get access to where even right now at home, I can look up our current calls for service, and see what's going on. So I keep that up at home, just as I'm walking by my home office, or coming in here, I can kind of peek. Or if I see something on social media, going, oh, let me take a look at this. I like to be prepared and get ahead of anything. So I have access, but the news wants instantaneous access. They want to know right now what happened 30 seconds ago. So we've been working over the years to try to have some type of system in place to notify our command staff, our city management, certain people within the police department in a kind of a quicker way than usual. So that way we can be prepared to put something out. I would say in most cases, especially when it comes to traffic, we're actually going to look at something maybe possibly automated through our app that would generate an automatic alert. Being connected with our dispatch CAD system. So if there's certain types of traffic collisions, the ones that are the significant injuries that are going to tie up a street for quite a while, that maybe it can generate an automatic alert, and then we come back and we follow up later. So we're looking at the technology side of things, but I would say that's probably the main thing. It's being included sometimes. As a PIO, you got to know your place, and I'm not part of command staff. They have their role, but they're pretty. Our command staff is very good with letting me know if there's something that, hey, in case this hits the media, we want you to be prepared. So, but I would say just a lot of it's getting that information as quick as you can, so you feel you can get ahead of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how we all face the same challenges.
Yeah.
All right, so here's one. What recommendation would you have for someone coming in to replace you?
Well, and I think about that as I'm on the back end of my career. And the one thing about being a PIO anywhere, whether you're kind of a pretty decent size agency like we are, or even the small agency, if you've got a team, if it's just you, or a small team, it's kind of a lifestyle. This is something where you're carrying that extra phone. I have two phones. You're always on call, whether you're getting paid for it or not. You're always, it's not like you're waiting by the phone, waiting for something to happen. It's just you're always kind of prepared that if something happens, you got to go to work, and so your family needs to buy in. Luckily, my kids are older. My wife's a teacher, and so she understands. A lot of times at the house, it's her and I for the most part, or with our 18-year-old son. But she knows that when we're out and about, if something happens that's really significant, or my phone starts blowing up, I just I'll do my best, but she understands it. So you got to have a supportive partner, a supportive family, and just understand that. Yeah, I mean, there are times where even that little weekend getaway, you never know what's going to happen. And so,
Right.
so that might mean you take your tablet or your laptop with you, but it's also important to disconnect too. It's hard to do as a PIO just because you want to be, in there. Just like I was when I was a newer cop, street cop, I wanted to be involved in everything out there. I wanted to be involved in those big incidents. Now your involvement's different, and you still want to be the person kind of leading the communication side of it, but you got to disconnect too. I was able to do that right before, or the week of Thanksgiving. I literally shut off my phone. I didn't take anything with me. I took my iPad so I could watch videos. Let's just say that. But I left everything at home and just completely disconnected. And you come back refreshed. In that case, I literally came back Thanksgiving night, and then the next day we had this triple homicide that kind of, with this Virginia sheriff's deputy who came down to Riverside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then it was nonstop. But I can tell you that if I didn't have that week of just letting everything go and just relaxing, went to another state for a few days, that I think I wouldn't have come back refreshed, and I would have been a lot more stressed out
completely agree with
going
you.
into that than it was. Yeah.
You do have to disconnect, and you do have to think about your own personal mental health and wellness, and that's something that is starting to creep into our field more and more, which is good.
Yeah.
All right,
and as a PIO, you're reading stuff, you're learning about stuff that a lot of people don't know.
Yep.
And you're trying to figure out, how do I communicate this to the media, to the public? So you kind of know a lot about what's some bad stuff that's going on at times. And so, you got to make sure that you are protecting your mental health and keeping up with it, so you don't, we're all going to have, cops are built and trained a different way where we can handle a lot of stress, but you have to really focus on that, being a PIO.
Absolutely. All right. So Ryan, crisis communication, it's been evolving for decades, and it's come kind of the forefront in the last few years to law enforcement, especially with some of the most recent things that have happened in the municipality I work for, in Idaho, where you're at, and so on. Where do you see the role of the PIO going over the next 5 to 10 years in crisis communications?
Leading the way, leading the charge. That's a great question, a great topic. We weren't involved in crisis communications or dealing with a crisis until the crisis happened, up until a few years ago. And in our city, we kind of take the crisis communication. It's not just the police department. When we have something significant, we kind of have a crisis communication team that includes the fire department, includes city hall, includes the main communications officer, the main city PIO. We're fortunate in our city. We actually have our own kind of TV studio, TV crew. They called Riverside TV. They're the ones that they broadcast all the city council meetings, city meetings, things like that. But when we need want to live stream a press conference, that's who we call. So we actually had it. It started, I think it was 2017, if I remember. It was a plane crash here in Riverside. And so, of course, it involved the fire department primarily and the police department. It was it crashed into a house. Fortunately, no one was home, but it killed the 5 people on board of the airplane. And so that was we had been talking about it for kind of a while. Luckily we had been meeting because we wanted to break these silos that are out there. Usually the police might talk to the fire department, but they're not talking to City Hall, in terms of your communications, your PIOs. You're not talking to other organizations. You're not getting to know who your sheriff PIOs are, or you're just your county normal PIOs, your water district PIOs. So we had been doing that. And then we had this plane crash. So we were able to come together pretty quick, have a live stream press conference with the primary parties, the different agencies within, I think, 3 hours, and then following up. And so we kind of developed this really good template. And it'll go into, I know, one of your other questions about asking permission versus begging forgiveness. We kind of started this and just started doing it. And then we had another national incident where we had a parent go into a school, one of our elementary schools, and take a teacher hostage. And so that became another significant incident. So we have this template. And now we've been called for. Our city management has asked us, or offered us, when we've had neighboring agencies that have had something. I want to say we had a military jet a few years ago that crashed just right outside our city limits. And hey, I'm making you guys available. Head out there now, just in case. So it became something where now this is how we respond. It's not just going to be, if it's a police matter, it's not just me in most cases. It's going to be some other folks. So that's the way. I think that's the template that a lot of agencies, unless you're a big agency and you have a team where you have your own kind of media people to do your filming and your videos, your social media, all of that. But when you kind of got these smaller departments where you're a one person, 2-3 person team, you've got to rely on those other agencies that you work with. And so I think that's where it's going. And I really like to see that. We've been fortunate enough to be recognized for that, where we spoke at some social media conferences about breaking those silos. And you'd be surprised the comments we get or the feedback we get going, man, how did you do this? We had one agency in our county come to us and say, we don't even know who our city PIO is or our fire PIO. And like, that's all you need to know, because they bring something, and they may have different resources, different equipment that will help you. So yeah, it's nice. And then it looks more unified as well, because as you know, in any crisis, you're doing some type of incident command, unified command system, and you need to make it look like that too.
Absolutely. All right, Ryan. So is there a book or author that has an influence on you? And it doesn't need to be about PIO, but is there a book that like sticks in your mind?
Well, I don't read a lot of books. I did start one recently. One of our local pastors, Greg Laurie, from Harvest Church here in Riverside, he gave me a book. We were there with the chief. He invited the chief, and I came with him and to one of the services to kind of recognize the police department. So he gave me one of his latest books where he's and what I like, it's not like a straight religious book that you think from a pastor. It's talking about Alice Cooper and John Lennon and Bob Dylan,
Oh,
and
interesting.
kind of and how they kind of a life maybe people didn't know out front, especially Alice Cooper. It's interesting to learn about them. I kind of knew a little bit about him, but once you read more, you're like, wow, this is actually pretty cool. And he did another book about Johnny Cash. And so I kind of like looking at things like that, learning things about people that aren't there, that you don't see in the forefront,
Right.
especially people that might have some type of celebrity to them.
Right. Okay. What's one question you wish I'd asked you, and how would you have answered?
um, well, I don't know. Probably, how much, something like how much, how many phone calls, how many, emails do you get, texts do you get, at a department our size with things, and something like that. I would say that it's almost daily. And it's good, or we cause this to happen. If we're getting a lot of attention, it's because we've set it up that way, and built it up that way. And you can't kind of retract from it. But yeah, I get, it's been a little slower, I would say, in the last week or so. And partly, you've probably seen nationally, we've had 2 Riverside County Sheriff deputies killed in the line of duty in the last 2 weeks. So kind of the focus has been on them than opposed to anything we've been dealing with. But yeah, I literally, it's almost every single day I'm answering some type of email or text or whatever about a question about something. That's what happens when you have social media. And out here in our city, it kind of focuses on our city, but we have a Facebook group, a community Facebook group, I think 150,000 to 200,000 people, that it's called What's Going On in Riverside County. It should be What's Going On in the City of Riverside. That seems to be where a lot of it is, but people are posting on that about whatever they see.
Right.
I just saw 10 cop cars go down here. So because of that, then you kind of got to be in the know a little bit more, and question the press or all over the whole LA market is on this group. So they see something going, oh, why is there 20 RPD cops and 10 fire trucks over here? Let's call Ryan and ask him. So that's kind of something. But again, we like it because one of the things I say about being a PIO is you want your agency to be the horse's mouth. You want to hear it from the horse's mouth. You want to hear it directly from them. So, okay, well, we're going to tell you directly. And so that's where we'd like people to hear that information, is directly from us. So we try to put out as much as we can.
Okay. Rapid fire questions. Ready?
Yeah.
Texting or talking?
I like getting texts. I like talking as my response.
Coffee or tea?
Tea.
Adult drink of choice?
It's going to sound a little less manly, but I've been I don't drink that often, but when I do, I've been drinking these Trulies.
What would be your superpower if you could have one?
If I could do many things at one time, like, or and be in many places at one time.
Yeah, PIO's best thing. Yeah. What is something that instantly annoys you?
Criticism when you don't know what you're talking about.
That's the cop in you. Ask permission or beg forgiveness?
I'm kind of more of the beg forgiveness, but there's certain times for it, but I would say beg for forgiveness, especially if you know what you're doing. You
Oh
can
yeah.
kind of get away with it.
If you could have coffee with any historical figure, who would it be?
Oh, well, you know, well, I don't know if it's historical. I'd really like to sit down with Don Rickles, um, and just have a conversation with him or Bob Hope.
Okay.
I really and the reason why is because on social media you got to have some humor too, and I kind of look at both of them. They're two different comedian types of comedians, but how can I be a little funny, be a little sarcastic, without going crossing the line, but
Right.
with some social media posts.
What key points would you like the listeners to take from the interview today?
I think that, if you're interested in becoming your department's PIO, is really dive deep into it. I think you would agree that a lot of times in the PIO world, most PIOs are just tasked with it. This is one of their several duties that they do. This is something that, maybe they're told they should do, if they want to promote. And that's fine. But really dive deep into it, get to know your reporters, your news desks. That's where I learned a lot about how to talk on camera. What the audience is looking for is by talking to them. They're the experts. I'm just a cop who's learned how to communicate with the media and to the public. But I didn't live in this world before doing this, so reach out to them and find out what they want you to do, how they want you to answer a certain way or whatever, what type of information they want you to provide, and really dive deep into it and kind of make it your expertise.
Great. How could people best reach out to you if they want to connect or follow up?
Well, I'm on, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I will say this, I don't use them. They're kind of, I've turned them all, my personal ones into more public ones. You can't avoid who you are once you're become a PIO and you've been doing it long enough, or you get some, you've been involved in some kind of national incidents.
Yeah.
But all my information is on like Twitter. I respond to that. I check this stuff every single day. Because I'm so busy doing the social media of the department, I'm not getting on or tweeting all the time or whatever, but I'm following everybody. And that's the other thing I would tell someone new is look at what everybody else has done. Follow them. Doesn't mean you're going to copy them. Doesn't mean you're going to mimic them. How can you do it better? But know what they're doing. And so I love being in the know. So I follow everything on these social media platforms. But you can find all my information on Twitter on how to contact me. I have a separate media number. I have email, all that.
All right. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, this is Ryan Railsback from the Riverside PD. Ryan, thank you for being on the show.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.